Hey everyone, Tyler here at The Movie Beat. Welcome back to another Korean movie review. Very happy to be out of quarantine. Sort of weird, the first movie I see during a pandemic was a zombie movie, but it was a must-watch. In this one, I'm going to be sharing with you my thoughts on the new, highly anticipated Peninsula, directed by Yoon Sang-ho, starring Gang Dong-won and Lee Jung-hyun. Let's get into it. Now, the zombie genre was really non-existent on the Korean cinema landscape prior to 2016, and the success of Train to Busan and Seoul Station, its animated counterpart. But I think Korea really proved to the world that it had something to add to the zombie genre. You know, we saw in the following years the success of the Netflix series Kingdom. In 2018, there was that really ambitious historical zombie movie Rampant. Last year, we had that sort of oddball zombie family movie, The Odd Family. This year, we got season 2 of The Kingdom. And just a few weeks ago, there was that social media-inspired film starring UIN called #Alive. I haven't seen that one yet, but wow, it really does seem like Korea has become like the epicenter, the king of doing the zombie stuff these days. If you guys are a little bit afraid of succumbing to zombie fatigue, I do strongly feel like if you are willing to check your brain at the door for more reasons than the film is not that smart. You don't want your brain to be eaten by zombies, of course. But if you're willing to do that, I do feel like there's enough thrills and eccentric characters and real dark, interesting atmosphere to this film that just might be enough gas left in the tank to get you off of this peninsula alive and with a smile on your face. So hear me out, let's get into the review. As always, if you guys enjoy these videos, please like and subscribe. Great easy way to support the channel and let me know that this is the stuff you want to watch. I'll keep making it if so. So thanks as always. 4 years after the events in Train to Busan, the Korean peninsula has been largely abandoned, pretty much considered a lost cause and sealed off. A former soldier during the initial outbreak, played by Gang Dong-won, now surviving as a refugee living with unrecognized status in Hong Kong for the time being, takes up a lucrative yet extremely risky offer from an organized crime syndicate to secretly return to the peninsula to recover some of the wealth that's literally just been sitting in trucks along the highway that were abandoned during the hectic evacuation. When he and his crew arrive on the apocalyptic peninsula, they quickly discover that navigating a ravenous horde of zombies to recover the money will only be half of their problem, as they must also survive the clutches of a brutal group of men who have established a chaotic and violent tribal state while living among the zombies. With the help of a family who has miraculously survived amidst the chaos, the crew just might have a slim chance of making it out alive. Now, while Peninsula does occupy the same world as Train to Busan and Seoul Station, the overall vibe of Peninsula is much more in line of Seoul Station, I feel. It's a lot darker and more bleak. And I do feel like it's a lot like this director Yoon Sang-ho's previous animated feature films, The King of Pigs and The Fake, as characters in Peninsula also, like in these films, deal with not only the physical endurance of fighting through their situation and surviving their unfortunate lots in life, but it also looks at the mental endurance as well and the psychological toll that battle takes on someone over time, and how it often sends them on a one-way trip into uncharted waters. Because practically every character in Peninsula, both good and bad, do reach a sort of breaking point at times where they need to decide, do they keep going or is this going to be it? This dark human drama aspect of the film feels like it's what director Yoon Sang-ho had the most control and focus over, and I do feel like that was what he did best in this film. Stylistically speaking, Peninsula looks and feels a lot like some of the best in the survival horror action genres. This is Escape from New York meets Land of the Dead meets Mad Max. I do feel like it even had some James Cameron Aliens in the way that this story was structured overall. But if you're familiar with any of these movies, it's going to make Peninsula predictable in a way that becomes a major weakness in the film. So it's something that you're really going to have to make peace with early on if you plan to get any enjoyment out of this one. But somehow, maybe it was just the timing, me getting out of quarantine, I was able to find this sweet spot for me because I really got into the overall vibe of this movie. For instance, there's this militia-led final outpost of human civilization living amidst the zombie-infested peninsula that's led by these like crazed warlord types. Think like the goons from The Fist of the North Star, or if you've seen that 90s action flop movie Double Dragon. Those like really over-the-top gangster goons, they run this place. These guys are so crazy, out there, eccentric. It's almost cartoonish, but something about this movie really allowed me to not take it too seriously. So I was able to embrace these guys as part of this broader, overall, almost B-movie package charm that I found in Peninsula. So this letting go really helped me to enjoy a lot of the action set pieces in Peninsula, despite some pretty crude special effects that sort of felt like the cutscene out of a video game at times. But whether it was the Mad Max-inspired car chases down Zombie Lane, or Gang Dong-won blasting his way through baddies like John Wick as the protagonist of a Resident Evil or House of the Dead video game, I surprised myself with several smiles that really burst onto my face unexpectedly as I watched this whole thing unfold. There was also a little bit of a weird mix of dramatic, orchestral-style movements with electronic, real percussion-heavy sounds that accompanied the various drama and action sequences, but I did find myself having some satisfying chills in several sequences, so I guess I'd say it worked. The zombies in Peninsula are brutal and scary, but very easily outsmarted when they sort of have their disabilities taken advantage of. So the zombie threat ultimately ends up taking a backseat to this unhinged militia group that is also out for some blood of their own, occupying key territory that the protagonists have to navigate for essential items. The zombie gladiator games that they put on make for some real mindless but intriguing action sequences, and it's sort of like this twisted take on the depravity that arises during the breakdown of humanity and civilization, so that was kind of cool. So aside from some of that predictability that comes with this movie looking and feeling like a lot of other films that we've seen, there are several other weaknesses that Peninsula has that will probably deter this movie from being the movie that you really hoped it to be. Because the heart of this movie lies within this family amidst the chaos, who was survived miraculously, but somehow the family dynamics and that dramatic aspect of the film just don't quite click, and I think that's because the little screen time that this family does get in the movie is preoccupied with pretty much all action scenes, and there's really little time for character development. And this particularly came through with some of the child characters that are very cute and even really cool at times, and how they dominate the zombies with their professional stunt car and RC driving. But the film's overall very dark, very violent, extremely apocalyptic tone felt so weird when these scenes were on with these kids, and it sort of felt like Spy Kids started, and I was watching 30 minutes of that just suddenly. Other characters in this movie are frustratingly dumb, sort of like the petite woman in a horror film that goes to investigate the broken window sound that she heard in her basement. You're like, she's dead. Some of the gall that these characters had and their actions had me just shaking my head. Either they do something that's just going to ensure death, or they survive a 1 in a million, 1 in a billion odds encounter that, when it happens over and over, really takes away the tension from future encounters. Peninsula also breaks some of its fundamental zombie rules that it establishes early on as the film progresses. Because these zombies are supposed to be practically blind but have this real acute sense of hearing. So if you're going to show me a sequence that has a huge military-grade helicopter personnel carrier just roaring its blades, and the zombie's not even batting an eye. But in other sequences, a car door will close, and they'll twist their head and hear that. When it really counts, and you're roaring a helicopter, and the sound thing's just not there, there was a lot of furrowed brows in my screening during these types of sequences. Also, some of the nighttime scenes in Peninsula just felt too bright for me to really create a sufficient sense of dread and anxiety. While these characters are sort of navigating the zombie-infested streets, you can kind of see everything, and it sort of looked like one of those old movies that you watched that filmed a night scene during the day just because they didn't have the right camera technology at the time to get enough light. So it sort of looked like that, and I was just like, this should be a lot darker. I know they had this like moon shadow and everything, but I, for one, would have preferred it if it was more natural lighting, just fire, candles, torches, and really having sort of a dark, pitch black background that you didn't know what was there. So I think Peninsula was always going to have a difficult time living up to its expectations set by Train to Busan, because not only did Train to Busan have such a great premise of being stuck aboard a moving train during a zombie outbreak, but the ferocious and gruesome zombies really sort of coincided with that signature Korean melodrama that gave it a real unique flavor. So this film, Peninsula, although it shares the same world, because it doesn't feature the same actors or the same characters, it's got just as hard of a task as any new movie coming out. It doesn't matter if you call it Train to Busan 2 or not. No one's going to be... The movie cannot just ride on its coattails of the audience having already invested in either the characters or the actors from the previous films. So, you're going to have to do something completely either as good, if not better, to also sweep us away on our feet and get us on board for this ride. That is a difficult task for, I think, any filmmaker to undertake. So I do really respect the ambition that the filmmakers have to really expand upon their, what I want to call like a zombie cinematic universe that they've created. And I think if you go into it looking at like that, you might find more enjoyment out of this. I think Train to Busan was a film that not just zombie and horror fans could appreciate and that they liked because of those other elements that I said earlier. But I feel like Peninsula might be one that just very specific zombie and horror fans might like. I think general audiences will probably dislike this movie for a number of reasons, probably ones that I stated in this review. So I'm going to rate this movie a 5.5 out of 10. I really actually enjoyed this, and I love this really cool sort of exclusive signature art card that Lotte Cinema is handing out. This was designed by Plain Archive. It's got some signatures on the back and things like that. This was a cool addition, and it sort of makes going to the theaters a lot more fun because I have this like other level of collectability that I can add to it. So looking forward to the Steel Rain 2 one that's coming out as well, and I hope they sort of continue that. So thanks for watching as always. I'm really curious to know what you guys thought about this movie. I have not looked at any other reviews prior to making this. These are 100% my thoughts. I know that the reaction has been not good just because I can see a star rating online, but I haven't really read anything about it. So very curious now. I will start looking at other reviews to see other people's opinions of this film. But I do want to say one last time again, I had smiles on my face coming out of this movie, and I was pretty jazzed when it was over. So I enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Until next time, I'm Tyler at The Movie Beat. Keep watching movies.